I confess I'm a mess and I'm just trying to figure life out. Can't believe what you see in this world, it'll feed your doubt. And I've tried on my own, but we weren't meant to do it alone. So come with me, together we'll get free. I confess I'm broken, but I found someone who's making me whole. And what if honesty could be the key? I confess I'm desperate, looking for a place to call home. And if honesty with me could be my key, then with truth I'll lead. And if honesty with me will be my key, then with truth I'll lead. Welcome to the couch.
Well, guys, we have made it to yet another episode of Couch Confessions. Welcome to the couch. And today I have a very special friend who has joined me to help me in my personal reality check around, what I like to call the overconsumption of the culture. So, without further ado, Nadia Felix, she's here. Fix it, Nadia Powell.
Thank you.
She's married. She's a wife.
Thank you.
Shout out to Nate. Hey, girl.
Hey, girl.
Thanks for coming.
I'm so excited.
Yes, you want to tell people a little bit about yourself?
Ooh, let's see. So I'm Nadia Powell. I work in clinical research.
Period.
I love the Lord.
Period.
Like she said, I am a wife.
She has
I got
the oil of God on her life. Continue.
I got married this year. I'm a homeowner. Yes. I have a little puppy. He's not a puppy. That's a grown dog.
Get a dog?
I've been had a dog.
Really?
Yes.
Where have I been?
I don't bring him around people.
When we came to the house, y'all had a dog then?
Yes, he was at my mama's house.
Wow.
I don't bring him around
have
company.
I been? Why, he's bad?
He's not bad. He's just hard-headed.
Oh, okay. What kind of dog is it?
A French bulldog.
Oh, why have I never known this? That's hilarious.
He's so cute. He's 3.
So small. Bulldogs are small. Okay.
But I want a big dog next.
Bad like bites bad, or bad like jumps and doesn't listen?
He jumps and doesn't listen. Depending on who you are, he might.
Ooh, so definitely not gonna be over there with your dog. What's his name?
Zephaniah.
Come on, Zephaniah.
Bartholomew. It's my little gremlin.
Oh my God, I love that. I mean, I'm scared of dogs, but I love that for you.
Yeah. He likes women more than he likes men.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my friend, the only dog that, shout out to Mando, Kayla, my friend has a lab and we get along. Mando and I, we have an understanding because I just like when dogs listen. If we say stay right there, I just want you to stay right there. And then we can get along. It doesn't sound like
that's what I said. I don't bring him around people. We having to get together. Okay, you're gonna have to go somewhere.
That is too funny.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we are gonna have a chat today, and like I said, you're just gonna be in on the conversation because I was thinking about my next confession for you guys, and part of me was like, I confess, I think I love the world. And this whole concept of what it means to, live your life authentically, but also live your life in a way that pleases God, and like the tension that exists. And then just like what is happening outside It's kind of ghetto.
It's very ghetto.
But we kind
Very
of
much
like the
so.
ghetto just a little. So like that's where we're just gonna chat about all the things, and I'm really interested to hear your perspective um, on all the things. So I think a good place to start is just like our assessment of the state of the culture. We're not experts by any
Mm-mm.
stretch of the imagination.
No.
I honestly probably don't go outside enough anymore to even know really what is going on. However,
I'll be in the house.
we still get to have an opinion. Listen, you and me both. So yeah, what is your assessment of like the state of the culture right now?
I think the first thing that we have to do is kind of like define what culture
Fair,
is.
yeah.
So like culture is pretty much like the combination of beliefs, systems, art, like all of the things. And there's so many like subsets of culture. So you have
Mm-hmm.
pop culture, hip hop culture,
Mm-hmm.
black culture, church culture, world culture, all of the things. And I think there are some good parts of it,
Yep.
but I also do believe that it's a lot of bit ghetto.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that was one of the questions I was going to ask you actually. Like, what are your like? I want to call them icks, but like, what are some of the like top? Oh my goodness, this is ridiculous type of things about the way that culture is, and then what are some of those like positive things? Like for me, I think some of the like things that really irritate me or get on my nerves, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier, like everyone has an opinion about
Hmm.
everything, and it's not the opinion that's the sticky part, it's the
I feel like I have to tell
boldness,
somebody.
yes, and the audacity with which
Yeah.
have your opinion, but like your opinion is not gospel. Like
Hmm.
who died and made you Matthew, Mark, Luke, or
Exactly.
John? Because this is not like nobody said that your
Yeah.
opinion was the fact. That irritates me. I think like the way we're very individualistic in our
Hmm.
approach about everything irritates me.
Hmm.
um Fan culture is very
Weird.
weird to me.
Weird.
Like, don't get me wrong, I have been a faithful member of the Beehive since before I knew what a survivor was,
Hmm.
but I don't think I like have a right to people's life and their. It's very
It's
fan culture.
entitled. It's
Yes, that's
entitled.
exactly what it is. Those are some of my like icks, and I would say like on the positive tip, we're very innovative,
Hmm.
I think. And I love like we have more power than we think to like turn things. And I wish we would like be more unified,
Hmm.
especially in certain communities, Black community in
Hmm.
particular, because we have a lot of power to turn stuff. Even if you think about like how media is changing, like the way that kids watch TV is
Hmm.
not like, I don't even think scripted like shows are going to be very much a thing coming up soon because
That
people
would be so
watch.
sad though.
It will be. I mean, I think for adults, but like kids, I don't think they watch these little shows. They
They
watch
don't. They do.
YouTube.
And I was going, so what's crazy is I was going like through some of the shows,
Hmm.
some of the old like Disney shows with my niece. And I was like, have you ever watched this? And she was
Yeah.
like, I don't know what that
And
is.
see, your niece is like in middle school.
Yes, she's
Yeah.
12.
Wow.
I said, I have failed you as an auntie. I'm so sorry.
To be fair, their shows are weird. I don't know if you watch like Disney Channel or like, I don't, they're weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very. Even the YouTube shows are weird. They're
Very
very
much.
like consumer driven.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, I have this cool new thing. And there's no like real content to it.
Well, my niece was watching. I don't know who it is, but it's a whole family, and they were like, it's basically like watching a TV show. Like the
Hmm.
plot was like the mom and the little boy, he was a rapper, and they was like going in the booth and like doing. It was like a whole
So
show.
reality TV.
Yeah,
Got you.
but I don't think it was reality. I think they were like making it up because I
Hmm.
don't think he's really a rapper.
He might be on the low. Catch his big state.
Listen, I don't know. Weird, weird. But yeah, what are some of your like icks or positive things about the culture?
I would say it's definitely how we are very much focused on self.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, if we did band together, how much like things could change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say another thing, just how we talk to each other. And I don't understand that.
Mm.
I don't understand that.
But you know what it is? It's how people talk to themselves. And I can say that because guilty. And I actually probably am the exception because I talk to myself worse than I talk to other people. But
Mhm.
I think like it truly is a reflection of how people like feel it on the inside.
Mhm.
It comes out
Yeah.
heavy,
Yeah.
bad. And then when you don't
Yeah.
have another buffer there, like I hate to say it this way, but I think what helps me have compassion for other people, even though sometimes I don't have it very well for myself, is my relationship with Christ.
Mhm.
And so when you are separated from that, definitely everything inside of you is
It's gonna
spilling
come out.
over.
Yeah. That makes sense because out of the heart flows the issues of life.
Yes.
So got you.
Yes.
That makes sense. Mm.
Mm. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. So I think we kind of talked about that, and I think, like you said, there's a lot of different aspects of culture. I mean, like music, the art that we create. Now
It's
that's
beautiful.
yeah. Well, I was about to say that's top tier, and then I thought about where we are right now. I think if you rewind like 10 years, about 30 years. No, I'm just kidding. I know we are like a very creative
Mhm.
people. From like visual arts to music and like I think that stuff continues to be beautiful and like wonderful and like the celebration of that and like I think I love that aspect of culture as well.
Yeah.
The other things are like, work and like climbing the ladder and what does it look like to be successful.
Woo.
And I think we're starting to do better about divorcing ourselves from like the typical definitions of like success being like money and power and influence. But it's like we say it and we want that to be the reality, but we know that it still is the standard. And so like
I'll say this. I think that is the standard. So I think people do still strive for
mhm,
money, power, all of the things. But I
mhm,
think the way that they go about to get it is differently.
okay.
So a lot of older people will say, millennials, Gen Z, all of the things, all of the generations
All
younger
of the
than them,
generations.
that they don't want to work. And that they feel a little bit more entitled to more money than what they're doing. So I just feel like we go about things a little differently because at the end of the day, um, prices for things are higher.
The funds are low and the debts are high.
Listen, and because things are higher, I expect to get paid more for what I do.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't feel like I should necessarily, because of the type of work that I do,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to go out there on an oil rig.
No.
That's
Yeah.
not my portion.
Not at all.
Because things have advanced, careers have broadened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, will I work? Oh yeah, I work.
Yeah.
I'm a Haitian. My people got 2, 3 jobs. Like, I understand work,
Yeah.
and I get hard work brings you things. But sometimes I just feel like we just need to get paid our worth.
Yeah.
And I feel like our generation and generations following us are fighting more for that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. And I think you said something too that's interesting because like the standard and how you go about it is different. But I also think in some ways the value of it is different. I think people I mean there are some people who the love of money is just the love of money and they're
yeah,
greedy. But I think a lot of it is about like people's comfort and like wanting to be able to like provide for the type of life that they want to live
hmm,
and like have balance and
yeah,
spend more time like with friends and with family and like moments that matter versus
hmm,
like wasting away. And I also think the pursuit of purpose is much higher in the younger
yeah,
generations. Like it matters for people to feel connected to what they do
hmm,
versus just like mindlessly doing things. I'll be the first to say I don't want to climb anybody's corporate ladder. I mean,
mm-mm,
I
over
no
it.
thank you. I mean seriously. And it's hard for me because that's like very much my background and how
Hmm,
I guess I was acclimated to be.
yeah,
And even at work, it's very easy for me to like because it's such a natural thing to me because again that's how like college all that stuff like that's just kind of how I was groomed I
yeah,
guess. And so it's easy to like I can walk in this room and run this meeting easy peasy,
hmm,
but do I want to?
mm-mm,
No, absolutely not.
mm-mm.
So the code switching is definitely exhausting and I think our generation is like not here for that. We just want to be
Who
how
we
we
are.
yeah like we want to be authentic in
And that's one
spaces.
thing that I do love about the culture of the
Mm-hmm.
younger generations
Mm-hmm.
is that they are so authentically them. Now, do I feel like sometimes it's a little much as far as all of the categories, all of the things? Does it get a little bit much? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that they are so bold in, well, this is who I am.
Yeah.
This is what I stand for.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what you say, this is what it is.
Yeah. Dang. See, now you made me think about something else. I agree with you, but then what do you think about, because I think this is another aspect of culture right now, this accept me or else. It's like, accept me or else, accept this thing or else, accept my way of being and my way of living and my idea of truth, or else. I don't like that.
I don't like that. So I don't like that,
Yeah.
because the simple fact of relationship calls for compromise.
Mm.
And if I just show up in relationship as, well, this is who I am, take it or leave it,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to want that, because you're going to feel uncomfortable, and then you're going to feel as if you have to stay in some type of confines and you're not able to be authentically you.
Yeah.
Because there's a part of you that does not like that part of me. And yeah, sure, you better.
Yeah, I don't, and I think like I don't know if it's a boundary issue or if it's because even if we think about, this is a sticky topic, but I'm gonna go here anyways. Even if we think about like, LGBTQA plus or I don't know, just a lot of things, like that's not the only example. That's just the main one I can think of right now around just, this idea of really accept me or else. Like if you can't be an ally if you don't believe exactly the same thing that I believe, and that bothers me. And I feel like there's no room for love and like acceptance and allyship, and like I can believe that rights should be the same and access should be the same, and the way that you're treated and seen in the world should be the same, but the way that I show up in my existence, my reality does not match yours, and that can be okay. I feel like in a lot of instances
there is no agree to disagree.
Yes, not at all. Oh my gosh, that dares my nerves. I can't do it. And there's no room for nuance in opinions. It's very black and white, or people want things to be very black and white, and there's just so much gray.
Yeah. And I guess the hard part about black and white in certain instances is that there are so many different categories. So it's black, white, red, yellow, purple, green, blue. Black, white, and gray.
Yes, literally. And then if we think about colors, I'm a very literal person. There's a lot of shades of gray. I mean, like you can have a little bit of black in there. You can have a lot of bit of black and maybe a little bit of white. You can have dark gray, light gray, all grays. So
a cool gray, a warm gray.
Exactly. Like there's nuance. That we could talk about that all day long, because that's a thing that I wish we could reconcile better, when people have difference of opinion around just life and the way of living, and it could be anything, marriage and how people raise their kids, and should you do this, and how do you we can have these conversations in a way that's not like
Yeah, and that's something that we were talking about earlier. Well, we were talking about as far as like in the church, but I guess this can go like in the world as well. I don't think that people know how to have conflict well. Like there is no like healthy disagreements. And I do feel like that is because of the lack of, one, emotional intelligence, but also two, like lack of communication. People don't communicate like what it is that you need, what it is that you want, what do you desire, how do I love you well, what are your boundaries, all of the things. So because there is no communication, like when you cross that boundary or you hurt me in a way, it's like, I'm gonna just cut you off. Like cancel culture, I'm gonna just cut you off. And I used to be bad at that. I still sometimes am.
Honesty, we welcome people out to safe space.
I still sometimes am, in the sense of like, now I used to be really bad. Like I used to be able to, and I get this from my dad, I used to be able to, like, if something would go on and like you hurt me, I can walk past you and it could be like, I never knew you.
Wow.
Like real bad.
Yeah.
And I still do have some of those moments, but I think now I'm a little bit more aware. And it's like, hold on, Nadia. Like, that's a person.
Yeah.
They have feelings. They have their nuances, all the things. And if you did not properly communicate how it is that you are feeling, how do you cancel them?
Yeah.
Like, what would the Lord do?
Listen, growth. And that's a term I like to call invisible expectations. Because, and I'm guilty of invisible expectations a lot. Sometimes people struggle to communicate their needs for whatever reason. But you can't not say your needs and then get upset when someone doesn't meet them fully. Or maybe you tried to say your needs, but you didn't communicate it well or in its entirety. I get that. I think the other thing that it made me think about when you're talking about communication is like listening and talking. Like, I think we miss one of the two, and the listening part, like hearing people well, is a struggle, it seems, because we hear what we want to hear, or we hear through the lens of our hurt. And that, I think, messes us up bad.
And I don't know that it's so much so as listening more than understanding. Like, I started to do this thing with Nate, and I was like, because we were talking the other day, and he had said something. I was like, I don't understand it. He repeated it. I said, I still don't understand. I said, hold on. I said, so what I heard you say is this.
Yes.
And he was like, no, that's
not
what I said. And so, like, that's something that, like, I learned in therapy. Like, when you're having a conversation, or you're having, like, a hard conversation, like, being able to say, let the person communicate whatever they need to communicate before you respond. Say, well, this is what I heard you say. Is this what you meant to say?
Yes.
And they could be like, no, or yeah, that's what I meant to say.
I love that.
And then you can respond from that place and not from your emotion.
I love that. I use that as well, because I think it stops a lot of I hate arguing. I don't like, especially with people I love a lot. Like, I'm very avoidant. Otherwise, I hate arguing. So I use that a lot, because I'm like, I don't want to feel like this is what you're doing, but this is what I'm receiving from what's happening. Is that your intention? If not, like, here's your chance to tell me something different.
Let's explain this.
Because otherwise, this is what I'm getting from this. Yes, I think that's such and it stops, like, so much confusion. Get what I need from you without oh my goodness, yes. There's just so many things. Like, the more we talk about it, the more they just all unravel. But I think we have dissected the culture well, at least from our own perspective. So I guess the other thing I wanted
it's my opinion. I'm not an expert.
Not an expert. Which, that's the whole premise of the podcast. We already told y'all in episode 1, honey. We just winging it.
This is the couch.
This is the couch. This is a safe space. If you don't want to be safe, you can go somewhere else.
I would hope people want to be safe, though.
I mean, me too. But, you know, people sometimes, everybody's not ready. And that's okay. Yeah, sometimes people are just not, they're not ready yet. But I hope so. It's welcome to everybody.
Welcome to this place.
I'm over here thinking, come on in, where the table is. Oh, you can tell we go to church. Anyway. So this concept of participation versus consumption. And again, for my personal reality check, I think, okay, cool. Like, if I don't really participate, then I'm okay. And I'm good. Like, I'm not, outside. I try to be, my values, I've tried to align them better with, who God has called us to be, and like the fruits of the Spirit and those types of things, and try not to be selfish and, checking my heart as it relates to success and some of the things that we talk about. I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm not really participating in some of the ghetto. But I think my appetite is a little off. Because I still consume a lot of the negative aspects of culture that we like just talked about, whether that be through social media or whether that be through like TV and reality TV in particular, or even just like in our interactions with like certain, how do I say this well? Like, sometimes you attract things and people that don't necessarily align with the values that you really hold, and I think that also can be a reflection of maybe my consumption.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm curious to know, like, what your opinion is around that difference and why it still matters, like what your appetite is.
So I'm gonna say like this. Well, a disclaimer. Like I said in the beginning, I love the Lord. I'm very much so a word girly. Okay.
Yes.
So in the word, it does say to guard your gates.
Mm-hmm.
So while you might not be participating in, if you're consuming it, it's in you. And it's like how we used to say when we was younger, and one of our friends would tell us, "Oh, so and so was talking about you. You didn't say nothing. Oh, so you agree with what they said? Okay, you not saying anything, is you agreeing with it?
Mm.
So it's hard because, like you said, sometimes we like a teach bit of a teach bit of ghetto, but we have to be careful, and we definitely have to be careful, especially in this time, that we are like guarding ourselves from certain things.
Yeah. You know, your pastor says it. You are what you eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's what like was the whole trigger for this conversation, because I was like, well, you know, like how much of that influences like your own like beliefs and the way that you interact and the way that you show up, like unintentionally.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that stuff seeps in, and I realized that really. I took a break from social media for I'm gonna say like 2 months. I was on TikTok still, which take that how you will. Personally, I feel like TikTok is the only algorithm that you can really like cultivate.
Curate, yeah.
Yes, like the other ones are I'm not too sure.
Mm-mm.
But when I was on my social media break, the TikToks that I was seeing was like DIYs and cooking videos, maybe a little song or two, a little kiki.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was safe because I was able to filter out the stuff that I didn't need to see. But I think that's what made me realize like, okay, I've been just taking in too much. And it like the comparison kills of it all. And like I'm an idealist. And so watching other people live out certain things and like even if it's not even real, like it just can really get you down bad. But I think that social media break is what made me realize like, maybe I mean I said I don't love the world, but maybe I love the world.
Yeah. And I mean, I think life is a journey. Your walk with the Lord is a journey. And I really feel like there are certain times where you do have to like fast from certain things to really see what it is you're getting from it, and what it is you need to take us like leave where you left it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've had those moments. You know, your girl used to like to drink a little bit, and I remember like for me, it was never like, well.
It's okay because you just hit something. I'm coming back for you. Don't you worry. I'll go first. I'll go. Honesty is the key. With truth, I'll lead. Go ahead, daughter.
So for me, my journey with drinking is a little bit different in the sense of like, you know, I gave my life to Christ and I was like, okay, you know, we're gonna walk this thing out. We're gonna do what we need to do. I still like a little drink every so often.
Yeah.
And it was I was very much so like a social type of drinker. Okay. And like, I remember one day, like I was at a restaurant and I took a sip of a drink. Got sick.
Oh man.
Got sick. Yeah. And I said, Lord, this cannot be true. Like, what? Like, I'm not even doing it. I'm not even drunk. Yeah. I'm out here chilling. And I remember going to church that Sunday. Hey, you're great. You're a great pastor. I was there. I said, hey, I don't think I can drink anymore. She's like, well, I've been praying.
That's there. There it was.
I said, okay. And I remember after that, like I got so much conviction because it was like, yes, you're only doing this socially,
Mm-hmm.
but what is your witness saying to the people that see you?
Mm.
And from that moment, I have had a drink.
Wow.
Like the Lord said,
yeah, listen. That's a hard one for me. I think, well, how are we gonna make this long story short? When it comes to drinking, right? Like, I believe that, how do I say this well? I'm gonna say two things. What I believe, and then my own journey. So I do think, like, I also drink, previously more heavily than I do now. And I was probably more than a social drinker. I have a little wine. I love a little wine. I also like bourbon. I like to collect bourbons just because, it's a fun little hobby and they taste nice. And it's like you're not drinking to get drunk, but just getting the different aromatics. It's a fun time. And I think, like, as far as conviction, for me, it was the overconsumption of it. And it was the, like, being drunk and, like, not making good decisions, and, like, at the point where, okay, you're drinking and now your mind is wandering to places that it should not be wandering. Or just, like, the temptations that, like, you're gonna be tempted anyways. You don't need something that's gonna aid you in walking towards your temptation. And so for me, that's where it's like, okay, this is sketchy. Like, if I'm having a glass of wine or like one or two cocktails, I'm probably fine. But beyond that, now we're getting into some, potentially dangerous territory, because what is your decision making going to be now that you're indulging in this? And I think for a long time I was trying to convince myself that, like, that was it. But another aspect of culture that I think is harmful, and I didn't realize this until my own journey, which we'll get there in a second, but, like, binge drinking is a very, like, normalized thing. And, like, I'm going to say borderline alcoholism is a very normalized thing in the culture. And, like, oh, I was stressed, let me have a drink. Or, oh, I was I need to go to the bar. Like,
I think it's the whole, like, party culture.
Yes.
And the look of that. But I think that stems from people not talking about how they feel.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what it is. Like, people think it's very normalized. It's easy to say, like, oh, I was stressed, like, I'm gonna have a drink. But, like, that is kind of problematic. Like, why are you running to that? Yes. And so that's where, for me, it has gotten sticky, because I realized in my own journey, as I dealt with, trauma and, depression, anxiety, all the things, that was one of my coping mechanisms. And I'm going to be honest, open, transparent. Welcome to the couch. I go to therapy anyways, but my therapist recommended, she's like, you keep bringing this up as, because I would feel guilty, like, oh, I was down bad and I drank a lot because I was down bad. And she's like, well, maybe let's talk about this. Like, do you want to maybe, seek additional resources, because, that's not my specialty. And I was like, I'm not an alcoholic. I do not need no substance abuse counseling. Like, denial. But I eventually did go, because I was like, okay, clearly I don't think it wasn't a dependence in that regard to where, like, I can't function. I can't function without it, or it's, like, not impacting my life necessarily, but it's becoming a negative and dangerous, potentially coping skill. And like, how do you reconcile with that? And so I went to, substance abuse counseling to realize, like, we got to replace this with something else, because no, it's not well. And now I have a greater level of conviction for it, because it's like, okay, whereas previously you're just, like, having a glass of wine or one or two cocktails, whatever, and it's a grand old time. Now in the back of my mind is always, why are we doing this? Where am I? Am I okay? Like, it's a weird time. And me and Jesus, woo! I mean, when I tell you I poured out my bottle of Blanton's, I mean, that's like $100 bottle of bourbon. Woo! I was like, all right, I'm doing this because you said, but also because I still wrestle with like, is it that bad? Everyone likes to say the whole scripture. It says be, sober. Doesn't say don't drink. And I'm like, okay, like we're getting into semantics at a certain point, but I think it's about your level of self-control and the lack thereof that exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it too, like you were saying, like how you have to check where you are. I don't feel like people do that a lot. Like at this point, where am I, like in this moment? What is my reason for wanting this thing or desiring this thing? And I do feel like that's where like relationship with the Lord comes in, because it's like, okay, well, am I desiring this? Is this something that the Lord would desire for me? Yeah, it gets
sticky. And even just like the thing also, I think we skip over, because people are like, don't over spiritualize things. But just like practically, I mean, I would like to live quite a long time. And your liver is just really not built to have, I mean, for real. Like, it's not. We, as a culture, so what's the new TikTok sound? And it's like, does nobody care about their health? Like, that's what it gives. Like, your liver is not going to be able to make it.
You have 30 minutes?
30 minutes. 30 minutes. Your liver's not going to make it. And that's the other thing I realized, like, because, again, it's not that I drank so much, like, it's that when I drank for those reasons, or when I wasn't well and I was drinking, it would be like
excessive.
Yes. Yeah. And so, although that's, for even if you think about people who drink like, moderate drinkers, whatever the classification for that is, I think it's like, 2 to 3 drinks a week or something like that. If you're doing that consistently for years and years, I mean, like, that has to be taking years off your life. And we already are not going to live that long anyway. I mean, the food, the pollution, like, I don't need additional things. And I think we'll get to this. I'm probably jumping ahead of myself, but the whole concept of like the things that God wants for us, he's not like punishing us. It's for our good. And like in the most practical ways, like, you'll be healthy.
Yeah. Literally.
You won't have to
with long life, he will satisfy you. Like, but you said something. You said because people do say this, like, don't over spiritualize things. Like, I had this reality check this week. A while ago, it was for one of my birthdays. I was like, I just want to bring in my birthday with like prayer and worship. Like, that's all I wanted to do. Somebody looked at me, they said, Nadia, it doesn't take that much. Like, you need to have some fun. And like, that stuck with me. And I realized that this week, I was like, for the culture of my life, it does take that much.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't think people, like, like we were talking about, you have world culture, all the different cultures, but I don't think people really think about like the culture of their life. Something that Angelica always says with Manny, like, this is the world that we've created. And
sorry, all the friends.
Okay. And I don't think people realize, like, yes, we're living in the world, whatever, but like, your life is literally the world that you're creating. So how is it that you're managing that culture? How are you cultivating your life in a way that like sustains you?
I never thought about it that way. That's really interesting because, I mean, if we think about culture as being like beliefs and values and norms and systems, then like, what's the culture of your life in your house, in your marriage, in your friendships, your relationships? Yeah, that's a really good point. Wow. Doing that alone, I couldn't imagine. Like, I wouldn't want to develop that culture without Christ in it. To your point about it being too much. And I think that's the tension of this like whole thing, right? Like, because you want to be authentic and you want to be relatable and you want people to like, if you're anything like me, you want people to like you.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want people to be like, oh, you're weird or doing the most. But it takes that much.
Yeah.
Okay, like I'm trying to. I said in the first episode, I'm fighting for my life. I'm fighting for my life. Like
Literally.
it takes that much.
Yeah.
And I wish that more people lived out loud, and so that it wouldn't feel so isolating and like almost like fish out of water to have these conversations and to just like live and be, because I think there's a lot more of believers and just like people our age and older or younger who are kind of like wading through these waters, but you don't see, I mean, you kind of do, and maybe that's just because of the people I'm around and like my community, and that's why I see more people like that. But I feel like if it wasn't for that, I don't know that you really see that many people leading in that way. Because I see, and I promise I'm not judging, but like the couch standing and the bottle girls. I do not want to go to the club. I don't want to go to anybody's club. I don't want to be family club. I don't want to. I don't want to go. It's just much for me. I mean, we love a good hood jam. Don't get me wrong. I'm just like a demure scene to listen to my hood jam. So yeah, that's what you see. I feel like, even like subtle things like you talked about the way we talk to each other and the way we talk about people, and like, I mean, cursing is not a bad thing necessarily, I guess, depending on the context.
I feel like,
but we be woo.
It gets a little bit much.
Oh my God.
It gets a little bit much. And I think the thing about cursing, and I mean, somebody might be like, you're really over spiritualizing that. I don't even care.
You be your sister.
The thing about cursing at someone, life and death is in the power of the tongue. And I've come to this thing like this week, like after you told me like what we're going to be talking about, like and looking into culture and looking at things, I've come to the place this week where it's like, I always want to leave a place speaking life. So if I'm looking at you, cursing you, that doesn't make sense.
I agree with you. And that goes for even beyond like the actual curse words. Like you can curse at someone and not even use a curse word. Like it's the spirit of what you're saying and why you're saying it. And that's what I think gets sticky and murky. Like, because the emotion, like this anger and like rage and like hatred and like preying on your downfall behavior is very, I mean, we were joking about like baddies earlier, but like there's something in us that really loves the drama, and that's not well.
Not okay.
It is not well. I mean, I have to check myself. I had road rage really bad previously, and I mean, the way that I was cursing them people out in my car, it's not well. And I had to check myself because that is really terrible. And you know what made me think about it? Because my windows are not tinted too well. And you know, I would really hate for it to be like somebody I know.
You know, I'm in a fishbowl.
Somebody from church or somebody from work. And I'm just like, that would be terrible. That would be terrible. So now I just try to count to 10, but it doesn't work out too well. Or at least I don't scream anymore. It's more like would you like everyone to die? Like, why are you coming over here? But you know, that's better than the screaming.
Yeah. I'm gonna pass by and look at you crazy.
Listen, tears my nerves that bad.
Woo.
That's a whole other segue. I mean, my God, why do people not know how to drive?
It just getting worse.
It really is.
The driving is getting worse and worse.
What do they teach them in driver's ed?
I don't know.
I would love to know.
But it's not even the young folk.
Are we sure? You're right, actually. You're absolutely correct. It'd be the grown adults. I'm sorry. Off topic. I just really...
Driving culture.
I mean, never mind. That's going to be really bad. Nope. Okay. Let's come back. Okay. So, I think before we got off on our tangent, we were making a perfect segue into... We were already kind of talking about it, but like this whole concept of being, you know, in the world, not of the world. And like, what does it really mean to be set apart? and why does that matter? Like all those things. And I think there's a flip side of being in a bubble. Like I personally believe, again, you have to be in it, just don't be of it. Like there has to be some type of awareness
Mhm.
and like participation
Mhm.
with life, so that one, we can, be among people and like have community, and but two, like how do you impact something if you're not a part of it, and if
Yeah.
people don't feel that you're invested and care. So I do think there's a way that you can like be isolated, you can like be in your little bubble and just like not know what's going on and be so removed that that can affect your witness too, because it's
Mhm.
like, well,
Who are you?
yeah, like what you talking about?
Mhm.
But we'll talk about the other side of that in terms of, why is that important? Like what's the line of appealing
Mhm.
to the world and being amongst the folks, but still like protecting your witness and like living a life worthy of, that which you've been called to.
Mhm. I mean, at the baseline, being set apart simply means being holy.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally think that Jesus is the best representation of being set apart. Um, being able to walk into all environments, being able to walk into all cultures and still remain who he was,
Mm-hmm.
and not conforming to like what is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think you made a point where you were like, you have to be like in it in a sort of kind of way to like be able to have impact.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the part of being in it is that we are flesh and blood. So our desires are like innately what we want is the things of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is what it is. Like we
Yeah.
were born into sin. Like this is who we were.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, when you make that decision to really like follow Jesus and be a disciple and go out to create disciples, sometimes it's going back to those places where, you were delivered from, you were freed from, those places that, you don't necessarily participate in what is going on now.
Mm-hmm.
And simply being you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like you always have to go into a space and pull out your Bible and be like,
Please no.
this is what the word
It's
says.
actually never what we're doing.
I don't feel like always people gain something from that.
Yeah.
And something that I love about like our pastors, it's like they teach you the word, like, they're gonna tell you what the Lord said.
Mm-hmm.
But their thing first is relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because how can I impact you? How can I help cultivate you if you don't trust me?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know me?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know who I am? So yeah, I think it's first being set apart comes with knowing who you are, knowing your boundaries, what you can do, what you can't do,
Mm-hmm.
to remain at baseline,
Mm-hmm.
like staying in your box.
Yeah.
And then simply just living your life like in that.
Yeah. Stay in your boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really important. And I think that puts it's a responsibility, right? Because in order to know who I am and know my boundaries, I have to, you talk about relationship, like that, knowing that comes out of that relationship that you have with Christ. And I think, like knowing your identity and knowing that you're marked helps you to kind of live in that space and know what those boundaries are. And that's always my thing. Like nothing's going to change until you have relationship, and it's a change of your heart. Like I don't like, I didn't grow up this way, but I know a lot of people say like, Christianity feels like rules and like the religion of it all, and you can't do this and you can't do that, and blah blah, and it feels fake, I guess, to people sometimes. And I get that. I think that's completely fair, because you're right. You're not going to, I mean, well, Now, we're not going to negate the power of God, because sometimes the power of God comes upon you and you are delivered instantly from a thing. But a lot of the time, even in that deliverance from a thing, the temptation is still waiting.
It's a journey
from at your doorstep. And so you have to have like that heart, and to know, for me, I think the gospel is the greatest love story ever written. And that's the lens with which I see my relationship with God. It's like, I don't want to be apart from you, and I don't want to be a part of anything that would separate me from you, not because you ever leave me, but because that's what sin was designed to do, was to make a wedge between you and I. And for me, it shows up in shame, and I run away. Like, you haven't moved, he's still standing right there with open arms, but I am in my shame and fear and whatever. Now I'm over here because I done participated in all these things that I know are not, what I should be.
And I think another part of that journey is accountability. So yes, have your relationship with the Lord. Like, yes, work out your own soul salvation. That's what the word says. But in that, like, accountability is key. Like, being around people who are like-minded and who you are okay with being vulnerable with, and saying, okay, listen, woo, this temptation is getting very strong.
Catchy.
Or
I fell deep in the hole.
So people who you're able to sit on the couch with.
Yes.
And say, this is where I am. This is what's happened. This is what I did. And they're able to be there physically how the Lord is. And I think that's probably like the best part about accountability, because I know sometimes, especially if you're secluded in your walk and being set apart, it's like, Lord, like, I just wish you like were here, because like, I know I hear you, all the good things, but like, I need you to be tangibly here, where I can look you in your face, where I can like touch your hands, all of the things. I feel like that's where like accountability comes in.
That's a beautiful way of looking at accountability too, because a lot of times we hear accountability and we think like punishment almost, or like, the harsh side of accountability.
It's rough.
It is rough, and it's a confrontation, and that's just what it is. But I think the way that you painted that picture is beautiful, because it is like grace filled too when it's done correctly. Yeah, like, it's not gonna necessarily sting less, but you're not alone in it. And there's room for like reconciliation when it's done that way, and when you have like that safe space and like community of people.
So one thing I would say is, sometimes, this is something that our great pastor has said to me before, sometimes safe is not always healthy. So yes, you
unpack. What does that mean?
So yes, sometimes, you want to have a safe space, but sometimes safe can feel, sometimes
what
being coddled can feel safe. Sometimes proper accountability doesn't feel safe. So you don't necessarily want to just create a safe environment. You want to have a healthy environment where we can have healthy confrontations. And at the end of the day, after this confrontation, after you tell me what I need to be told, like, you tell me about myself, okay, cool. We can still have relationship after this.
Yeah. That's really good. And that's proper perspective, right? Because, wow. I'm like, I have to recite that to myself again, because, that is true. Sometimes what feels safe to us is not really safe.
Like, if you think the first time you went to therapy, even, I'm gonna say, even sometimes now going to therapy, like, it does not feel safe. Like, I walk in there and sometimes I'll be like, okay, well, I have to tell her this stuff, or we're unpacking this part of my life, this trauma, and this does not. I'm ready to run. Like, I'm ready to dart. But because I want to be healthy, I have to walk into a healthy space.
Wow. I'm like, you're gonna have to let me sit with that one. No, that's very true. I'm just like, wow.
That's how I was when she told me that. I said, no.
Because then you have to like sit and ask yourself, like, what is safety? And like, how does that show up? And then it just makes me think about, like, again, your relationship with Christ. And that doesn't mean like safety is in the absence of discomfort necessarily,
Mm-mm. And
or
it's like, so when Adam and Eve, they sinned,
mm-hmm.
they hid because of shame.
Mm-hmm.
You making that face like that, lady.
Wait.
Woo, Eve. Glory to God. But when they sinned, their first instinct was to hide because of shame.
Mm.
And because Adam used to walk with the Lord, like that was his daily
Mm-hmm.
routine. He used to walk with the Lord, like walk and talk.
Mm-hmm.
But because of what they did, they hid because it no longer felt safe. And it was like, I did wrong. I have to hide
Mm-hmm.
because what happens now with this relationship?
Yeah.
And the healthy part of that was the confrontation that he had with the Lord. Like, Adam, where you at?
Yeah.
Well, I'm naked. How did you know that she was naked?
Who told you this?
Exactly. And then he got the consequence. They got the consequences that they got from that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the conflict when it comes to being in environments that are healthy is the accountability and the consequence that might come from that. So that's why people like safe environments,
Yeah.
because sometimes in safe environments there is no consequence.
Yeah, but and that's danger.
Exactly.
That's not safety at all. Consequences are safety because it gets you back in track and in alignment.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow. Woo. Yeah, that's good. I don't even know. That is good to me. Wow. That is making me rethink a lot of things. But that's good. That's what it's for. That's the importance of it.
Yeah.
It just makes me think about like what spaces and things that I like run to thinking like, oh, this
It's
is
safe.
This because safe means, because sometimes we think safe means comfort, and that's not what safe is. Safe is protection, not comfort. And sometimes protection is not comfortable. Even like when you're a kid and your parents be like, you can't do or you can't go, and you are pissed off.
Man.
And you realize later down the road, oh, thank God for Jesus. Because I mean, Eric and Charlene, thank you.
Okay.
My dad used to say all the time, and I used to roll my eyes. He would always say, it's not you. It's not that I don't trust you. It's I don't trust the environment that you're going to be in. And
I didn't raise them people. I understand. But listen, you raised me.
Exactly. If you don't, okay, so I literally used to be like, okay, it's the environment you don't trust. Okay, but if I'm fine and I'm going into the environment, I'm going to be okay. Like, you know, I'm smart. I got this. No, you don't.
Young and dumb.
Yeah, you don't have anything, actually. You have nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. There are so many, like, well, that's an episode for another day. Because the way I was acting in high school, I had no business. I mean, no business. But even still, I think it could have been worse if not for, you know, certain things like that. Like, I used to drive everywhere because I'm getting out. If something goes left, I'm going home. And I think that comes from, like, you know, the protection of your parents and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's so good. I'm sorry. I'm going to let it go in a second. Okay. Well, as we kind of like, we've been having this has been a good chat. But I want to talk about also the like fine line of how do we appeal. I don't want to say appeal to the world, or like, you know, if I'm in it, how do I authentically show up, and how do I share and participate in a way that isn't teetering a line? We were talking about this earlier. Like, I think a lot of times Christians or Christian culture, I don't know what you would say, we put ourselves in some interesting positions by under the guise of like, you know, trying to influence or trying to share. And it's like, are you trying to share? Is that
Are you trying to be
effect?
seen?
Are you trying to be seen? Or maybe your intention was well, but like, was that wise to do? And were you being obedient? Like, I was listening to one of the pastors I listen to often, and he was talking about how just because we as a world have tried to like force this whole intention versus impact and like accept my intention even though the impact was trash.
Yeah.
Like God doesn't have to do that, and He doesn't have to accept your intention. He wants your obedience, and it makes me wonder a lot of times, like when we do certain things. Did he tell you to do that? Like, did you ask him? Did he want you to go over there with them and do that?
And when you asked him, did you listen to what he said or what you wanted him to say?
Listen. Because, I mean, there's a lot of examples even right now in like popular culture. We won't like name drop, but I'm sure y'all know what we're talking about in terms of like certain, albums that may or may not have dropped recently. That's not the only example. Remember when a certain Easter play came out? That was another interesting example.
Yeah.
So, like, what's your take on all of that?
So, woo. I think, well, I'll speak for me because I feel like everybody's fine line is a little bit different.
Yeah.
I think for me, what I have learned, is that I have to know, like we were saying earlier, I have to know where I am. Because some days, like I can go into certain environments and be fine. But if I am a little bit out of whack, I gotta stay home behind home. So like it's to speak for like everyone is kind of hard because like I said, we all have different lines. But I do feel like that comes knowing your line comes with like relationship with the Lord and like you said, obedience and spending time with him.
Yeah.
And really listening for what he says rather than what you want him to say.
Yeah.
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 And having wise counsel around you. Because like sometimes I can be like, yeah, I can do this. Like, I'm gonna go here and it's gonna be great. And somebody can look at me and be like, that's dumb. That sounds really dumb. Like, don't go there. Like, please.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, wise counsel, accountability, knowing where you are, knowing who the Lord has called you to be.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like sometimes that, I say,
different measures of grace for everybody.
Yeah, like he said, he's given us different measures of grace. So I feel like sometimes, like if you don't know who you are and what he's called you to do, you can be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go out here and all these people I'm gonna go out on the street and all these people are gonna get saved. He did not grace you for evangelism.
Yeah.
That's not what that's not what he graced you for.
Yeah.
Like you might be needed to serve in hospitality.
Yeah. Stay in your boundaries because either you're gonna either influence it or it's gonna influence you. And I think when you operate outside of your boundaries is when you get in the danger of it influencing you. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I feel like I said, just knowing your line is literally just knowing yourself, having a relationship with the Lord, accountability, wise counsel, staying in your word, staying in prayer, all of the things. And just not participating in things that you've been delivered from. Yeah. And knowing it's okay to, for me, something like I said that earlier, like this week, I really came to the realization it does take that much. And being okay with how much it takes to keep you at baseline. And whenever you do go out and, be yourself, go out to create disciples, whatever it is, knowing what it takes to keep you at baseline.
Yeah. And not being afraid to just do it. As you're talking, I think that is what is hard for me right now because I think I know what it takes. Then it's like, okay, are you really how serious are we gonna be? Because This is your choice now.
Yeah.
You know what it is and you know what you need to do. Are you going to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And are you going to have the courage to do it despite what you think how it's going to look to people? And it matters so much right now. Like, we got to be the people that we got to be the salt of the earth. Like, time is up. I mean, time is winding down.
30 minutes.
Time is winding down.
Yeah.
And that's been my burden. Like, we don't have any time. We never had any time, but we really don't have time. And I do not want to be, I just don't want to be. When I go to heaven and see him, I want to answer well for the things that I was supposed to do. And I don't want the things of the world to be the reason why somebody, whoever we're called to impact, didn't see him correctly.
Yeah.
Like, that just can't be the thing. And if that means being the fish out of water, then oh well.
Yeah. And I don't think that because culture right now is so individualized, I don't think that people, I feel like we used to hear this all the time, like, people are looking at you even when you don't know it.
Yeah.
I don't think that people know how much impact that they have.
Yeah.
Even like them just being themselves, like not saying anything, just
Living
their
your
own.
life.
Yeah. I don't think that people know how much impact that they really have. And I feel as if people really knew how many people that were looking at them and looking at their life, I do feel like they would live it out loud a little bit more.
Yeah. And differently. It makes me think about like our generation specifically, because I mean, no, I'm laughing, but seriously, what we see, it makes me like worried. Honestly, like, we gotta be authentic and we gotta be real, but we gotta strive to be holy and set apart so that our witness is pure.
Yeah. And I mean, I do feel like, because people are like, this generation is running away from the church. I don't necessarily feel like that. Like, I feel like there are like a good remnant of people in this generation who literally just want, like, to see the Lord. Like, they literally just want to be in his presence. But I think that because of the things we kind of put in our face and the things that are sometimes kind of like thrown in our face, that it sometimes gets over like shadowed. And my prayer is that, the people of this generation will start to live out loud even more, and that through their prayer, through their fasting, through their desire, to just be in the Lord's presence, that we will begin to see like that generation like rise up.
Yeah. I believe it's in there too. And I believe that, I don't know how to say this well, so forgive me. But I think that there are people who, even though their life maybe doesn't hasn't all the way conformed to, Christ's standard of living, their heart longs for that real connection and that love. And I think there's both. And like, I think there's the remnant of people who are like, really striving in their life and they're making those changes and decisions. And then there are the people who kind of are still like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but I do think there's a longing for just like, I don't know if it's connection or love or but peace. I just think that there's a lot of suffering, whether that be outward or like internal, your heart and your mind. And I do think people are longing for something, whether they know it or not.
I feel like it's a mixture of all of those things. Yeah. And I feel like that's why sometimes it's so easy to run to world culture, pop culture, all of the things, because there are so many distractions. There are so many remedies to cope, quote unquote, or mask
Yeah.
whatever it is that they're feeling, whatever it is that they're seeing. Um, yeah, I think that's why it's so easy for people to run to that because I personally feel like in world culture, pop culture, whatever you want to call it, um, it's easy to not have to take accountability. Because if you think about it in church culture, God culture, whatever you want to call it, it really causes you to look at yourself. And it really calls for accountability. And it really calls for accountability. And I think sometimes that's why it's so hard.
Yeah.
Um
That mirror, baby.
Woo! Oh, looking at the man in the mirror.
Oh
Yeah.
Asking him to change his ways.
And not only does it call for accountability, it also calls because yes, it's easy to lie to yourself, whatever. But to allow for relationship into I think this is the part where I've had the most difficult time in my relationship with the Lord is like fully allowing him in to like every piece of me, like even though yes he created me, he knows me, like whatever. That was probably like, and still like sometimes it is because your girl is woo,
Listen.
a work in progress. But to have that type of vulnerability of like, yes, I know you created me, but like, let me be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you created me in your image, and your image was perfect, and I'm not that. So coming to someone and saying, "Hey, like, I know you." It's almost like when you were younger, your parents gave you something and you damaged it, and it was like you had to go to your parents and say, "Hey, I know you gave this to me for this purpose, but I could have broke it." And especially if it was something expensive, like, I remember I think I broke up one time. I said,
Girl, I went through so many phones, dropped in the ocean, washed it in a washing machine.
Yeah,
that's why I had hand-me-downs. I never got like a good phone until like
oh my, was hand-me-downs. It's okay, it's okay. But to know, like, okay, yeah, like you gave yourself to die for me, and like that is like the most valuable and precious thing, and you created me, and it's like I messed up.
Yeah, for sure. I think also because it's not for him, right? Like he already knows it's for you. At least for me and my journey, again, the shame of it all is what is like, has a chokehold. It really will strangle you. But when you say that and like admit that, and maybe you're living in the consequence of that, but when you feel the mercy and the grace in the midst of your hot mess expressed, that does something for your soul to know and see him properly and know that he's not gonna walk away from you. Like it does not matter how raggedy you think it gets, like he is there for all of it. And that is like the beautiful part of him, and that's the part that makes me emotional every single time, because like, the verse that talks about I am the least of these, like truly I am the most ghetto of them all. Let me tell you. I'm just saying, like, if we're gonna be real, we're gonna be real. Like, and the fact that he said, "You're mine," and not even that you're mine, but you want to use me for something. Are you quite sure? You sure? Like, that makes me emotional every time, because why do you love me? I don't really know. But you just keep on doing it over and over again. And that's what makes you love him more. And that's what makes me want to live a life that is worthy of, I know it says of the calling, but like the love that you've given me, because I don't deserve
Yeah, and I think that's probably like the most beautiful part, though, is that like we don't have to do anything, like for that type of love. Like we literally, like you said, we don't deserve it. We can't earn it.
Nope.
But he doesn't ask us to earn it.
Mm.
Like he doesn't ask us to earn it. He's like, hey, like, come follow me, come serve me, you know, and live in this place.
Yeah. It's an invitation, man. A free gift. Imagine that.
Exactly.
Priceless. Truly. Wow. Well, I mean, I think we've done it. I'm about to cry, so I think that's where we're gonna just say see y'all later. No, this has been such a good chat, and you're welcome to the couch anytime because
I feel honored. I got to sit at the couch.
listen, everyone is welcome, and I love it. So thank you for chatting with me, and you guys. Hopefully, it's been good for you. You've gotten some little nuggets. Let us know how you feel in the comments. And always remember to subscribe and share.
Please.
Welcome to the couch.